Hey, good morning and welcome. My name is Brenda Meller. And Barbara, I was getting ready to go live, and there's a thing that you have to do in StreamYard. I pull up the intro video, which plays for about 30 seconds, and then you have to click go live, and then there's a second button that says go live as well. And if you don't click both, you don't actually get the go live stream. So I started at about 17 seconds, and I was telling you in the pre-show there's about a 30-second delay. So, first of all, good morning, Barbara. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Brenda. Thanks so much for having me.
Good. Well, good
Excited
to
to be.
have you. And I want to ask our audience, this is kind of my mic tap moment. Hey, if you're watching this, if you're hearing us right now, could you do me a favor? Could you please drop a comment below and just say hello, or maybe just tell us where you're watching from, or maybe there's somebody that you know in your network who is an author who might be interested in the discussion. That does two things. One is it lets me know that my little hiccup in the clicking the go live button worked and you actually are seeing us and we're live with the audience here. And second, it also lets us know who is watching today. So as your comments are coming in, I will pull them up on screen. And I see we've got a few folks. Ashish, who's watching us this morning. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
Olivia, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm seeing some no face users. That's because of your privacy settings. I'll talk to you about how to adjust that in comments. All right. You guys are making me feel good. Okay. I'm seeing some comments coming in. Barbara, we're good to go. So let's get started here. So Barbara, you and I, we were talking in the pre-show about where we met. I think it was either through Inforum, but you think it might have been through the Troy Chamber originally. Does that
It
sound
was one
right?
of the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time.
So both are great organizations. I'll give them a shout out in comments here. But I know you a bit, and we've been remaining in contact with each other through the entrepreneurial circle, so to speak. So, Barbara, why don't you take a few minutes for those folks that haven't met you yet? Tell us a little bit about what do you do, who do you help, and what do you help them with?
Absolutely, Brenda. And first of all, I want to say that I am one of your biggest fans ever
Aw.
since I met you. And I met you very soon after you decided to work for yourself. And I
Mhm.
have just been so impressed with your journey and how you have grown what you do. It is, oh my gosh, you're a rock star. So
Aw,
thanks so much for having me.
thanks.
It's been just, it's always great. Every time I talk to you, I learn something. So
Aw,
this
that's
is
so nice of you to say.
super.
Sometimes when you're self-employed, you get a little bit of that imposter syndrome. I think it helps to keep us grounded. But
Yeah.
then you talk to somebody like Barbara and you're like, "Aw, that's so nice of you to say thank you."
It's super nice to know you're making a difference. And
Aw,
I love to get that feedback too. And I do every now and then from clients and also from students, ex-students of mine. So we all need those boosts, right?
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know me, I am all about communication. I acquired my interest in communication and my knowledge about communicating and good communication skills when I lived abroad. I lived abroad for 20 years. And in that process, I learned several other languages and taught my own. So I've become very, very aware of language. And the way that I'm currently putting that to work is helping people understand how to create aha messages for their audiences.
Mhm.
We can call it a pitch. A pitch is a word we can use, but it's honestly persuasive communication. And I help people use language in such a way, connect it and create a flow that helps their audience just get what they're proposing and what they're asking their audience to do. So that's one of my passions. I teach this to entrepreneurs, I teach this to managers. Everybody sells, everybody's got something to sell. So actually, the technique that I teach can pretty much anybody can use, and it's obviously replicable. I do one-on-one coaching, and I do also some small group kind of work. So
Mhm.
that's really what I love to do. It's my passion. But I
I love it.
also write.
You've evolved your business. I think even since we've met, I've seen you in different areas and presenting on different topics and more recently talking about writing. So, on that note, Barbara, we're here today, and I'm going to point out to the audience right above us is the topic. We're here today talking about collaborative book projects, a pathway to becoming an author. And we're going to jump right into the conversation here. In the pre show, we were talking about. I've been thinking about collaborating on a book project, and it was like perfect timing when you and I kind of reached out and connected. So let's talk about, like, first of all, what is a collaborative book project for those people that are thinking about becoming an author? Why might it be an option for them?
Well, I think what might be interesting is for me to tell the little story of how I got involved in one, because I
Okay.
honestly didn't know what a collaborative book was until a couple of years ago. And I was wanting to develop myself as a speaker. That's where I started. And I reached out to this organization. It's called the Women Speakers Association. It's a Canadian organization run by a woman named Gail Watson. And I was speaking to Gail about becoming a member of this organization. And she said, well, you can become a member, just an average, ordinary member, or you can become an author member. And I was like, an author member? What's that? So
Mhm.
she then explained her project, her collaborative book project, which is called Voices of the 21st Century. This
Okay.
is the sixth edition that I'm in. This title stays the same each time this title changes. But her first book, she thought it would be a one-time deal, and she got 50 women together to
Wow.
inspirational stories. Yeah, that's a lot of people. It's
Yeah.
a lot of authors to bring together and manage. So people loved the first book so much that she just kept the project going. So each year she recruits, in my book, it's 45 women, between probably 45 and 50 women who have a story to tell. And she, in talking with me to interview me about like becoming a member of WSA, she said, you know what? You have an amazing story. You should tell this story. And
Mhm.
the thing that happened for me when she said that was, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to tell my story.
Yeah.
This has been something I had wanted to do for a really long time. So, her offering me this opportunity to become involved in the book of many is what has led to my now writing my own book. So, when we say pathway to becoming an author,
Mhm.
you start small. Like the chapters in the collaborative book, each woman writes 1,000 words. Now,
Okay.
this is probably variable in different book projects.
Yeah.
I would imagine there are different um, numbers
Formats.
of words that people are allowed to write. I have a friend.
Question real quick, Barbara, because
Yeah,
I'm trying to
sure.
look it up in I'm doing a Google search. If you see my eyes going to the side, I'm like, I'm trying to find it. Is it on Amazon or where can we find the book for those that are interested? Because I want to like pop that link
Well, let
into
me
the
explain that part too,
Okay.
because
We'll
that's
get to that.
interesting. Um, if you go on Amazon and you search this book, you will find Gail Watson's version of this book. That her
Okay.
name and her photo will be on the cover. What
That's right.
Gail,
We did talk about this because I'm finding
yes.
a Kindle edition, but I'm not finding like a printed edition.
Well, they use the Kindle edition to launch it and to get
Gotcha.
it to bestseller status. So that's there is a Kindle edition. I think there is also a paper edition because I know that some of my friends have purchased it. The
Mhm.
thing that Gail does in her project, and not everyone does this, she their WSA provides a specific cover for each author.
That's right.
So
Yeah. You
the
told me about that.
internal content of the book is exactly the same, but on this version, it's my version.
Right,
So
right.
I
Your
can,
your name is on the cover
my
with
name
Gail's
is on
name
the cover, my name is
on
on
the
the
cover.
spine, and my
Okay.
picture is on the back with
Okay.
Gail's. But the
Mhm.
thing is, you can only buy this version of the book from me. You can't get it on
Ah,
Amazon because
okay.
Amazon won't put 45 versions of a book on the
That's
platform.
right, yeah. Okay.
So
So
that's
we have to
the
go
kicker.
direct to you to buy it off of your website? Is that
You
how
do.
and for the same with every author,
Yes.
right?
Every author has their own book.
Yeah.
Same contents, but they
Mhm.
have their own cover. I have just, I think, gotten my Shopify to work.
Oh,
It's
good,
been
yay.
months to get it up there, but
Okay,
this book is now available on my Shopify on my website. If you go to my
okay.
website, it says shop, you'll see this. But some of my friends ended up ordering the generic version because
Mm,
they didn't get that part. Now,
gotcha. Okay.
another friend of mine, a Romanian friend of mine who lives in Switzerland, did a similar thing. She has a chapter in a collaborative book that another woman promoted and put together.
Mhm.
But that woman doesn't, there is no cover for each author. There's
Gotcha.
only
Okay.
one cover with her name on it. And I'm pretty sure she's the only one who makes any money on that deal.
Really? Okay. So,
I think.
and that was part of my question, this collaborative project, like bringing people together, and I've seen different revenue models and different business models for this too. And I had one of my friends say, I was thinking about doing a LinkedIn book, and maybe I do invite all the people who were previously in my LinkedIn rock stars to do a chapter of the book. But as you know, there's an upfront production cost to go
Yeah.
through and get it to, everything from working with a publisher and a cover design and proofreading and layout and pagination, all that other stuff, getting it published. And then there's the back end, which is the revenue. And then, the hope is that you break even fairly quickly, but who knows what happens. And then how do you do this on a collaborative level? So in this case, the model was create the chapter and then you're selling it on the back end. Did I
Yeah.
capture that correctly?
So
Okay.
what you do in this kind of a project, the way this worked for me, and I can speak from my own experience, but I paid a fee to
Okay.
participate. So you
Okay.
pay a fee to participate, and what you get is help. So they
Yes.
help you write your chapter, they edit your chapter, you learn about the publishing process.
Mhm.
WSA they are what now you would call a hybrid publisher. They have
Okay.
developed a system, and they have a New York editor involved, a New York publisher involved. So I did not have to deal with any of that. I didn't have to go find somebody and, you know, the and really honestly, what I got for my money is the fact that I'm an international best-selling author.
Right, because it's a part of the collaborative project, right? And
Right.
like you said, the way
So,
that they positioned it on Amazon, you get that bestseller status.
and it's an
Mhm,
Amazon bestseller. It's not a New York Times bestseller, but I will
mhm,
take that because I'm writing my own book. And now,
yeah,
when I bring out my own book, I will be able to put on that cover international best-selling author.
good
So
point.
that's why I feel that this is an amazing pathway to
Mhm,
becoming an author. Because if you just write a book, and you have a book, Brenda,
I
you
do, yeah,
know it ain't easy to get to
mhm,
bestseller status,
yeah,
right? It's
mhm,
there's a technique. So these organizations, and I can't speak to for everybody else.
right,
um I do know my friend in Switzerland, when they launched that book, she was trying to get people to go and click and help make it an international bestseller on Amazon.
yeah,
However, she has not participated in any of the revenue. So let me explain how that works.
okay, mhm,
I purchase these books.
right,
I pay for them.
okay,
Um, the cost is about somewhere in a little over $7.
right, and that's about average. I mean, I think about my
What you
book,
pay for
Social
your
Media
book?
Pie. I ordered my initial order was coordinated by a coach I worked with. And then after that, he made the contact with me in the publishing house. Normally, they don't deal with the public, but they made an exception. So when I'm buying them in groups of 100, and
Yep,
I pay. It's right between $5 to $7 a book. So
right.
that revenue model stands, or excuse me, that expense model stands in your version as well as in my version. So
So
for the audience
Gale
purpose,
and
right?
WSA are making their money when
Sure.
we buy the book, which is paying their expenses
Yes.
for having done all the work based
Yep.
effectively.
Mhm.
And then on Amazon, I believe the book sells for 16.99. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that was the initial price. So we have the flexibility to charge whatever we want under that and over 7.35 or whatever it
Okay,
is.
so for your version, you can charge anywhere from $8 to whatever the
15
max is,
something. Right.
$16.
I've
You don't
been
wanna
selling
price it at
them.
$20 because that's
Right.
nobody would buy it because 'cause they'll go and buy the cheaper version,
Right.
right?
So
Yeah.
I've been pricing it around $15. I do have to
Okay.
charge tax. So it
Yeah.
takes it to 15.90.
Mhm.
But that, and then I do a deal for 2 books for 27.
Mhm.
I've been donating some of those second books. I've done a deal where buy 2, 1 goes to Grace Centers of Hope.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Some people have also just bought 2 books. They want one for them, one for their daughter,
Mhm.
so you can do deals. And I mean, the
Yeah.
other part of this for me is learning how to market a book. I
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue, and because I knew I wanted to write my own book, I thought I can learn how to do this through
Yeah.
this project. And
Yeah.
I have. I can't say I'm perfect at it. However, And one, and I don't know if you found this to be true. One of the things that I have found so interesting is that some people have expected me to just give them the book.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, I think like the closer they are to your inner circle, your family and friends,
Yep.
and there's an investment that you put out at the beginning of the project, and it depends on who you work with. It can be in the couple $1,000s up to the tens and thousands and 25, 50. I mean, it can be a lot of money that you're putting into this.
Right.
And when I always, kind of say this to people, when you're self-employed, you don't get a paycheck unless you get paid. And that's the same thing when you're a published author. Now, I am not Michelle Obama or Oprah Winfrey, where I can just give away books, And I've heard, I mean, some people do use the book marketing approach of giving a book away to prospects
The
because if they
$6
can get their
business card.
and
Yeah.
if they can get your foot in the door for, I mean, $5 to $7, maybe a little more, including shipping, if you're sending it to them, and it gets you a $10,000, $20,000, 100K
Gig.
deal, hey, it's worth the investment. But I agree with you. It's kind of funny how some people would say to me, "Oh, are you going to send me a copy of your book?" And I said, "Well, did you buy one?" And it was like an awkward little like,
There,
"What's
it
going
can be a
on
little
here?"
awkward, yeah. I
Yeah.
actually have a woman, there's a woman I met through the WSA project who is a book selling coach. She has a
Oh,
program
okay.
that she sells and I'm in it. And one of
Yeah.
the things she said when I asked her about that is that it also has to do with the language we use. If we
True.
say, I've got books today, I'm selling books today. So
Mhm.
some of it is also the language we
True.
use that
Mhm.
triggers people to think, oh, there's a cost here. Some
Right.
people, I agree with you that it can be an awkward moment. And it does seem like the closer people are to you, the more awkward the moment is.
Right.
But then other people have been like, I want to buy your book. They've
Mhm.
been very aware and they want to pay for it. So you get a bit of both. And that's something I guess as authors we have to learn
Right.
is how we speak about it and how we handle that situation. But yeah, I invested up front. Plus, I buy the books I sell.
That's true. Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
is a cost involved. And it's not, I've always been told you don't write a book to make a lot of money on the book itself.
Mhm.
It really is the fact that it puts you out there. And like you said, the case of your book, because it is about how to do something and what you do, it can very well get you a gig.
Right.
This book is a bit different in that regard. And also, my book is a memoir.
Right.
But what I want to do with that is inspirational speaking
Okay.
for my target audience
Mm.
around my journey, which was,
So
go
so
ahead.
with both of these book projects, the chapter that you did and then the book itself, are these slices of the talks that you give? Of course, I got to get a pie analogy in there somewhere. Are they a slice of what you would give to people if they were to book you as a speaker or book you as a trainer or book you as a coach? Is that fair to say?
Well, more so this the 1,000 word version of the story in here is going to be the one. I just dropped my bookmark. My book is going to be the 100,000 word version of my
You
story.
can grab the bookmark if you want. On my show, I let my guests go out of camera. Sometimes I turn around. I was even thinking as you were talking about
I don't know what I did.
giving books to family and friends on Amazon. I'll turn around when Barbara comes back, but on Amazon as an author, if you use their publishing platform, there's a way that you can buy sample copies. And when the sample copies come to you, did you find your bookmark? Because I'm going to turn around right now and grab my book. So the sample copies, they have like not for resale on them. Let me show you what this looks like. Go ahead and talk for a second here, Barbara, while
Oh,
I grab my
right.
book.
Yeah. So this book is called Leap Land Live, is the 100,000 word version of the 1,000 word version that's in the collaborative book. So there's a link between the two. This is what I want people to do
Found
when
it.
they read my story in this book is to say,
Yeah.
I want to know more.
Right.
Boom.
There you
Here's going
go.
to be the more.
So you got a little bite of the pie. Now you wanna have a full slice of it or
You
a
want
whole
the
pie to
whole
take home,
pie.
right? I'm gonna work at it. Okay, so I found it. This is the version that when I printed on Amazon, you can see this is like a banner. It's not like a piece of paper. It's actually printed on here. It says
Oh,
not for resale, and it goes all the way around.
oh,
Um,
interesting.
And, there is a barcode, but there's no price that's listed on it. I think I bought 5 of these when I first published. And I technically, if somebody, a family member or somebody close to me said, "Could I, aren't you going to give me a copy of your book, that awkward conversation?" I could say, "Here." And they'd be like, "It says not for resale." I'll be like, "Yeah, those are for my gift copies. My paid customers get the regular."
There you go. You could
I don't
handle
know.
it that way too. You could
Yeah.
handle it that way too. So
So how
yeah,
you came across this project originally? I mean, and this whole topic we're here today talking about collaborative book projects, a pathway to becoming an author. And I'm sure it's inspiring people that are watching because they're like, "I didn't even know this is a thing. Like, this is a way of getting into
it
it."
is a thing.
Because for so many of us, Barbara, when you're thinking about writing a book, it seems like climbing a mountain. And I think about looking up at, like,
Oh,
I can't do that.
me too.
It's
Absolutely.
I mean, there's many analogies I've heard. It's like having a baby, because it's about a 9-month gestation. And there's so many things to worry about, and it can feel very intimidating thinking about cover design and layout and finding a proofreader, and do I need testimonials, and like, how do I even get it to market, and do if you're selling it yourself, you've got to worry about postage and shipping and sales tax, and if you put it through Amazon, there's a whole marketplace. It can be very intimidating. So what I'm hearing you saying is this pathway to becoming an author, it can make it a lot more manageable, and also a good learning
Accessible.
experience to go into you're self-publishing your second book. Is that what I heard you say?
Well, I'm if Gail's listening, I'm going
It's
to put it
private.
out there to WSA.
Okay.
I've understood the difference between a traditional publisher, a hybrid publisher, and self-publishing.
Okay. Yep.
Self-publishing is becoming more respectable, but the issue you face is getting it into bookstores. They
Right.
still don't really like self-published books, and they don't always have access to them because they buy their books through distributor. And if
Right.
you're self-published, you're going to have a really difficult. You're going to have to pay a distributor to carry
Okay.
your book. So
That's
I'm
interesting.
looking into the hybrid model, and WSA would be considered a hybrid publisher. There are others out there. The other thing I want to mention is that the way I have approached writing my book is using a ghostwriter.
Is that right?
Um, yes, she
Mhm.
happens to be a friend of the family, and it's actually working out great because she's exactly the age that I was when I expatriated myself, which was what
Oh,
this book
okay.
is basically
So
about.
let me just interrupt you real quick, Barbara, because there might be some people watching that have said, "I've heard that term ghostwriter," and they could Google it, but maybe they haven't. They're like, "I think I know what it means," but can you tell us, what does that mean exactly?
It's somebody who writes in the background. And so I'll tell you how I did this. There's a wonderful young lady in town who you know, I think, as well as me, named Angela Buccellato. And she and I became friends a couple of years ago. And so in 2022, she said to me, Barbara, why don't you tell me the story on Zoom and we'll record it? And that'll give you transcripts.
Nice.
I probably would not have thought of that myself. So
Mhm.
Angela and I had 11 sessions, and I
Okay.
told her high level without there's more detail at the beginning, less detail at the end.
Mhm.
Told her the story. So when I engaged my ghostwriter friend, she had something to start working on. And we now meet every week and I fill in the blanks. We're kind of building out sections of this story. We're looking for the red thread all the way through, but it's not like starting with a blank piece of paper.
Yeah.
All of us just freeze if we think, to my credit, I had written 4,000 words of the story and I
Okay.
honed that down to make the chapter in the collaborative book.
Mhm.
But Beth is the name of my ghostwriter. She knows how to sit down and write.
Right. Because
And
that's
not all of
that's
us know that.
writing. Book writing is different than writing,
Yes,
journaling or blogging or anything else,
it
right?
is.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is. And it's like you said, it's intimidating.
Yes. Yeah.
Plus
And
the fact that if you're like in my case, I'm telling something I lived, I'm so close to it that I can't see the forest for the trees, if you will.
Mhm.
So Beth has gone through these transcripts and she's written stuff and she's been creative in some cases because she didn't know what really happened.
Yeah.
And I read what she writes and I'm like, Oh, that's an interesting take on that, you
Yeah,
know?
so she's kind
So
of adding in some commentary that's expanding upon your original thoughts then.
it's very
Mhm,
interesting, the process, and I'm
mhm.
sure the story is going to be, I don't know if I wanna say deeper, but I think it's gonna be more interesting to the
Yeah,
average reader because of
mhm.
her influence.
Yeah. So it's
Um,
important that you pick somebody who's the ghostwriter who shares some aspects of your personality or your values, a bit of your voice. They're not ever going to be Barbara because there is only one Barbara Bolt,
oh, yeah.
but we want to get someone whose voice can come close to that or help to stitch together some of those
Well,
sentences
a
in here.
lot of people go on Fiverr
Yeah,
or one of those services and they find a ghostwriter, and there are a lot of them out there.
right.
I was lucky that this family friend, we happened to get back in touch with her just at the point that I was looking for somebody. And it occurred to me, oh my gosh, this one writes.
Yeah.
And she's never done this before. It's not a kind of, she writes magazine articles and newspaper articles, and
Okay.
she blogs and that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
she looked at the transcript, she started reading them, and she got fascinated. And
That's
she's like,
wonderful.
"Sure, I'll do
Yeah.
this." Now I'm paying her,
Yeah.
I'm paying for this too. So this is another
Absolutely.
investment
Mhm.
that I am making. But I know that if it were up to me to be putting words on paper, this thing wouldn't be happening.
We'd still
It
be
just
talking about it, and I don't know about you, but I how many years did I talk about writing a book before I actually sat down and wrote a book and whatnot.
exactly.
Barbara, I wanna start to shift gears here, and I wanna move us into some Q&A, and not cutting you off at all,
That's
but I
okay.
wanna, like, just a little we've had some great comments that are coming into chat here, and I wanna pull a couple of those up on screen and reflect, and I'll remind our audience, if you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation, if this is inspiring for you, if you've done a book project or anything, feel free to add it in. Let me pull us back a little bit so we can do a it's like Wilson from Home Improvement where we're looking over the fence over the comments on here, the longer comments. Hey, Brian, thanks for watching. Brian says he appreciates the presentation. His goal is to record audiobooks for free for families reaching elementary through high school, technical manuals, things like that. So, Brian, thank you so much for watching. We're glad that you're inspiring us on here as well. Anne Marie said that she found a paperback version of the book on Amazon as well. Anne Marie, I couldn't find it, but I am multitasking a little, so I trust there is a copy.
Thanks,
Barbara's copy won't be
Anne-Marie.
on Amazon though.
No,
Barbara's will be on her website only.
right.
Yeah. And some folks, I thought that was super impressive as well. You get your own byline in addition. Can you hold up the front cover again for us? And I'm just going to narrate because those that are listening on podcast can't see. It says Voices of the 21st Century. Everyone has the same cover image on the front, but on the bottom of the cover, it says Gail Watson and Barbara Bolt. And then when Barbara flips it over to the back cover, the same description appears at the top. And then there are two author bylines. Barbara's at the top, Gail is underneath. So it very much is a personalized edition. And then on the spine of the book as well,
Yeah,
it's the
I've got
title
my
of
name
the
on the
book
spine.
as well as Barbara Bolt's name is on there. So I love that it is giving you an in to publishing without all the heavy lifting and having a process to go through. I think
Well,
that's
and
just
I
really
wanna give Gail a plug here because she is super
yeah,
generous. She really encourages us to sell our copies.
yeah,
She's not out there marketing the book herself,
mhm,
particularly, other than at the beginning to get it to bestseller, but this really is for the authors.
yeah.
That's who she does it for, and I wanna just that I'm super grateful for that because,
I
as
love
I
that.
mentioned, the other woman that my
Yeah,
friend published with, it was more about her. It
yeah.
was not about the authors.
Well, and that's a challenging part of being part of a collaborative project is I mean, I guess you have to think about your goals, whether you are a collaborator or the organizer of the collaborator, what is your goal within the project? And by the way, I want to give a shout out right now, John Asperian, who's watching us on YouTube. Thank you, John, so much for doing that. He likes the idea of collaborative books. I'm glad that you like the idea, John, because you are going to be one of the first people I reach out to if I can figure out how to do this LinkedIn Rockstar book, because John actually inspired me with his data and analytics to start this Rockstar list. I don't publish it anymore, but it's a great collaboration of LinkedIn trainers and coaches from across the world. I've got to figure out how to do the business model, but you're giving me some great ideas in the conversation
Well,
here
and I
today.
think I can hook you up with Gail because she could probably give you some great insights.
I was going to say, could I work with them or does it have to be, is the collaboration run through them? I
The
guess.
collaboration for this book is run through them, but I don't
Right.
know if they've ever considered, trying to help somebody else put a collaborative book together, you
Okay.
know? Could be
Okay.
a offshoot for her.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. Olivia, I wanted to pull this up on screen. I don't think the people that are asking for our books for free are thinking that they are being rude. I really don't think that. It's almost like, not a great analogy, but if I go over Barbara's house and Barbara's my sister-in-law and she's baking a pie, I go, "Oh, can I have a slice?" Like I assume that I can have a piece of it because we're family. And I don't think I'm gonna pay, even though like Barbara's like, well, I'm on my way to the farmer's market. I'm actually selling the pies, you know. I mean, not a
We
great
got you a
analogy, but
slice.
I don't think that people are thinking that they're rude by asking for a copy of the book for free. I think they think that we are either already profitable with the book. I don't know if they're even thinking through the process. What do you think on that, Barbara? Like, what's the
What I've
rationale?
been I've had this conversation with a couple of people or several people who've written books, and they say that people simply don't realize there are costs involved. They
Yeah.
don't think
Hmm.
about it. But it's like when you go to a bookstore, you pay money for a book because somebody spent money to put that book on the shelf to
Right.
get it
Right.
there. So
Yeah.
that I think people don't think about the fact that there is a cost to producing a book. And
Hmm.
so some of it's just ignorance about that whole
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
And then some people may feel that you should just give it to them.
I don't know. I mean, we can't get into their minds exactly about all that. And by the way, Olivia, if you are selling on Amazon, I'm not going to be able to show the screen right now, but it's in the place where you go in and set up your seller market on Amazon. There's a place inside there that you can order sample copies, and they are at a reduced rate. They're about the same rate as your cost, whatever that is, $5 to $7 in there. But that's how you can kind of get to that. Okay, Nicole, I don't know if you know Nicole Scheffler. I believe she's in Metro Detroit too.
Hi,
But she
Nicole.
says there's another company, women owned and lots of books loading, actiontakerspublishing.com. I'm not familiar with that name. Have you heard that name, Barbara?
No, no, thank you.
Yeah.
You can get this to me after, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Okay. Yeah, thank you,
the good
Nicole.
part about this is broadcast live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook hiccuped for me again today. I don't know why. I think it's the StreamYard Facebook. They're not playing nicely right now, but it will be broadcast on both the networks live. It will be available for playback. So I want to encourage anybody who's watching. If you have worked with a publishing company, please tag them into comments because there are current authors, there are aspiring authors. We are all hungry for resources. I don't know about you, Barbara, but when I started my process of book publishing, I was like a sponge. I just went out there and I tried to learn as much as I could. I asked questions, and I think it's important to have options. Were you the same way when you started, or because the path came to you, did you not really shop around?
Well, I didn't shop around for another collaborative book because I'd never heard of it before and I didn't know like what to go even look for. And this kind of fell in my lap. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I'm going to jump on this because it ties into this other longer term goal that I have.
Mhm.
So I actually didn't, but now being part of Charmaine Hammond is the name of the woman whose course I'm taking about monetizing a book. And
Okay.
Charmaine's story is interesting. She wrote a chapter in one of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And someone read her chapter, a bookstore owner, I think she said, and said, you should write a whole book about this. So
Yeah.
she
Wow.
did. And that was her first book. So yeah, every people come to it from very different places.
Yeah.
I
It,
know
it
you know Lydia Michael because you're going to
I do.
interview her.
I'm interviewing her in October, and I have her. I'm ordering her book on Amazon to read
Brand
before,
love.
and
Yeah.
I have to admit this to you, Barbara. We started the phone call today, and I'm like, I don't have a copy of her book yet, and I felt awful. I try to read, but was it published at the time that we had booked our call?
The
Was it
the
already published?
collaborative one?
Yes.
Yeah, it was
It was
published
through
in
your website
February.
too. So shame on me. Hey, and this is like my I don't make mistakes.
Well,
I
I
have
haven't had
learning
it for sale
experiences.
accessible yet, so you're
Yeah.
good. You're good.
But I will be purchasing a copy, and then I wanna encourage everyone too, if you are supporting your friends who are authors, in addition to buying the book, which is always good because that supports their bottom line and it supports them as a human being, after you're done reading the book, or even while you're reading the book, take a picture of either the front cover of the book, maybe your face is, maybe like a thus type of a pose where you're hiding a little bit of your face, and post it on social media, or you with the book and post it and tell people why you're reading it, tag the author in on it that supports them. But I'm going to do
Mhm.
that. So you'll get another post later, and then
Okay.
I'll refer back to the podcast where we were talking about the book as well.
Well, I was gonna
If,
say about Lydia, her
yeah.
process was different because she had been thinking about writing a book, but she was already speaking about the topic, brand love,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
she had a publisher approach her after seeing her speak and say, we would love to publish a book. So it was the reverse for her. The publisher came to her and
Really?
asked her to write the book. So that's another way that it could happen.
Yeah.
I think
That's
that's
great. And
interesting.
there's many paths to becoming an author. I mean, today we were talking about
Yeah.
collaborative book projects, a pathway to becoming an author. By the way, I love doing this thing where I ask people on live video if they want to do something with me and then they commit like John just did. That he said, "Hey, I'd be happy to on Rockstar's book." And if this does happen, I'm definitely going to be giving Barbara a shout out in the forward because I've been thinking about this for a while. When there was a group of us that met in New York, there's a group of us LinkedIn trainers and coaches, and I was talking to Bryn Tillman about it, and she said you should do it. And she had some ideas about how to make it happen because you do want to make sure that I at least want it to be break even. I don't want to incur too much of an expense on the upfront without, making that back on the back end. So there's a bit of that business model that needs to be worked out.
I think it would
So
just be like if you were the one to really push the whole thing forward, you would get a larger share of
yeah,
the profit in the end. And the collaborators, there'd be a collaborator rate and then the organizer rate kind of thing.
yeah.
That's
I
the way
even
I would
like the way that the your book project did because there's a fee to get into it. And then every author gets a version that they can promote and sell, but it can't be through Amazon, so we're not all competing, from that
right,
aspect. So
right.
I think there's something there. If you're watching, if this is a book that you would buy, different chapters about LinkedIn strategy tips from different people who are LinkedIn trainers and coach. Not a commitment, but just
I
let
would
me
buy
know in
it.
comments if there's an interest in here. And then in the meantime, I would just want to thank you, Barbara, for coming on with me today. And there may be people who are interested in working with you. We've been talking about this collaborative book project, but there's many more aspects of you. So can you remind us what are the services and offerings that you would have that folks might be interested in?
Well, I do, as I mentioned, I do one on one coaching with anyone who feels that they need to become a more powerful, impactful communicator. I work with people whose first language isn't English because that's
Okay.
a lot of my history, but I work with people who maybe are introverted and have trouble showing up in rooms where they need to show up, or they're showing up, but they're not getting the outcomes that they need. And in this case, we work both on content and delivery
Okay.
issues. Small group course wise, I am open to creating custom courses. I just did a couple of courses in Zurich earlier this year for uh, their introverted tech people who are client facing. And we worked on their ability to persuade, to communicate persuasively as opposed to strictly informationally,
Okay.
because they have to engage that client in an ongoing manner. So those were two interesting projects that I did this year. So that's
Yeah.
also, they were custom design projects. And then I am working on putting together an online course that would probably be more for that entrepreneur or nonprofit leader who
Okay.
needs to pitch.
Good. Well, having come from an online course background, I've got two out right now, and I've done a couple other offerings of that. If I can help you in any way with that, Barbara, let me
Oh,
know. It
thank
sounds very
you.
exciting. I think you'd be great to learn from. And then let's talk about LinkedIn. If people want to connect with you on LinkedIn, are you open to connecting with them?
Absolutely. And I think on LinkedIn I am Barbara A, but it looks like it doesn't have the A in my linked thing or the
Barbara A. Maybe there's a
yeah,
typo
it
in
is
there.
Barbara A. And I'm
Ah,
actually I bought the URL for Barbara A Boldt. I'm gonna brand that for the book, for my book.
You know
Um,
what? This is the interesting thing. I'm going to pull the screen up a little bit larger. So your name field does say Barbara A. Bolt, but your URL it says Barbara Bolt. Is that what you were referring to, the URL or
yeah.
the name field?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, good to know. So we can go and look you up there on LinkedIn. You are set up with creator mode on LinkedIn, and I can see that because you've got the Bolt Global, the custom URL at the top of your profile. So I'll
Okay.
just remind folks, if you do visit her profile for Barbara A. Bolt, you will notice that her default button is follow. Now, if you want to connect with Barbara, you can, but you have to click on the more button, which is right next to the follow button. And then when you click on more in your version, I'm already connected, so you're not going to see this on screen as I'm talking about this right now. But in your version, you will notice that it will say personalize, invite, or connect. That will be one of the options in the dropdown. And just mention that you heard Barbara on Brenda's show. She'll know what you're referring to there, and sometimes that helps to know too, Barbara, like where people are coming from, right?
Absolutely. I always like to know that. Yep.
Yeah,
And I'm a
great.
great connector, so I'm always happy to be connected.
Wonderful. All right, Barbara. Well, I just want to thank you so much for being on with us here today. It was a delight
Thank
chatting with you,
you.
learning more about the project. I've got my inspiration juices are flowing right now, so I think I'm going to really look into this seriously. Any final comments for us on becoming an author through a collaborative book project? Oh,
I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and I will be happy to support you in any way I can in making your book dream come true.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you back in person again too. I know like people are starting to get out, conferences and events are back. Maybe we'll see you at a Troy Chamber event or Inform in the near future here as well.
I certainly hope so, Brenda. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. All right. And for our audience that's watching, I want to remind you, Barbara and I are both enthusiastically self employed. What that means is we do not get a performance review from folks anymore like we did back in our corporate days, but you can give us a review, a comment. So before you leave the chat here today, if you enjoyed the discussion, let us know that you enjoyed it. And by the way, as soon as the video is done playing, you can click on the share icon here on LinkedIn and share it out as a LinkedIn post. It's a great technique if you have not yet posted this week, this month, or even this year. It's a great way of getting the posting started again. And when you share it out, when you click on the little share button and share it out, tell people why they should watch it. Watch this video to learn tips from. And if you want to tag in Barbara or I, use the @ in there, and that way we'll get notified and both of us will jump into the comments and leave a comment for you. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Remind you that I do this show every Tuesday live at 9:05 a.m. Eastern here on LinkedIn. You can also catch the playback on YouTube, and this will be converted into a podcast in the very near future. So you can listen to this on the podcast as well. Thank you again for watching and have a wonderful day. Stay safe and stay healthy, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thank